Come and join me in the Wild at Heart at Home Botanical Cafe today. Cheers! We often use food and foraging and natural ingredients to help build our groups and our social connection with each other and with the natural world. So today, as part of our programme, we were to be enjoying some of the different foods and drinks that we could make, but I'll talk us through them today, and it'll be a starting point for when we do get back together again to carry on with some of our nature connection activities. So Jenny has been sharing some of the herbal teas, different varieties we could forage or find in the garden. So if you want to grab a cup of tea and enjoy that whilst I'm here. And Jess will be sharing the recipe for some homemade elderflower cordial, which is elderflowers are just coming out into season now. The flowers in the sunshine will be bursting big white florets of rays of flowers that can be picked and used to make the cordial. Elders are very distinctive, very strong smelling plants, so if you know of a good elder tree that you can collect cordial, that'd be fantastic. So look out on our Facebook page, Wild at Heart _Sheffield and Rotherham Wildlife Trust, for that. Jess will share the photos. Try an elder herbal tea, and I'm going to talk through a few of the homemade drinks, pickles and fermented foods that you can make and try and enjoy, that are coming all the fashion and all the rage at the moment, but might not be familiar to many of us. I've recently discovered a couple of drinks that I really like that make for pretty good non-alcoholic versions that you can adapt to suit every occasion or your particular tastes. This here is water kefir, which is a yeasty bacterial grain or crystal. It's not crystal, it's they call it a SCOBY. So if you look water kefir up online and look at the yeasty crystals, all we're doing here is making a carbonated, lightly carbonated drink, so slightly fizzy, homemade drink, using the kefir, some raisins or apricots, for dried apricots for flavour, water and sugar, and that sits on the side for about 4 days. Then you can bottle it up into a bottle and pop in the fridge and start drinking it, and it makes for, I think, a very delicious alternative drink, either a soft drink or a long drink, or you can add things to it as well to change the flavour if you want to, but for me it's an alternative to alcohol in the evenings. I really like it. And I recently discovered, which I've never come across before, another way of preserving drinks that uses the concept of sugar and fruit together, but then adds vinegar, and it's called a shrub, and the word shrub comes from the Arabic from sherbet, is derived from that, and it's a method of preserving that I think it's true to say we've pretty much lost in our country, but it's coming back now from the States, I think, and it's a way of, you make the syrupy sugar, but then you add vinegar to preserve it. So in the jar here is just some cherries, mint, sugar and vinegar, and you end up with a little cordial that you can add. I add fizzy water to this, carbonated sparkling spring water, a few of the cherries in there, some mint on the top, and you've got a delicious, unusual, because you've got that tang of vinegar in the back there, that's very mild, and I should say it's not malt vinegar, the brown stuff that we usually use, but if you use things like red wine vinegar or cider vinegar or white wine vinegar, I think was mostly in these, they're comparatively low cost, and you can actually make your own. We might be exploring that in a bit as well. So it makes for an alternative drink called a shrub. So that's cherry and mint, and I've got some rhubarb here, which is really plentiful at this time of year. It's just a pound of rhubarb chopped up, covered in sugar, left in the fridge for a couple of days, then strained off. Add a small amount of the vinegar and you've got a delicious, refreshing, natural drink, which you can adjust your taste, so make it very low sugar if you would like to. So they're shrubs, and there's loads of information online if you want to explore it. They call it an old-fashioned drink for modern times. I think it's really, really lovely. Another of the things we've been getting into at Wild at Heart has been fermented foods and pickles. I wanted to talk through a few of these little recipes. A few years ago I came across Yorkshire salad, which some of us might remember is just sliced cucumber and onions added to vinegar. And this has got a few little spices in it like caraway and mustard seed as well. But basically you're making a very lightly pickled, slightly a relish to go alongside stews or salad meals and on sandwiches and crackers and things. And it's a lovely, light, simple dish. And people talk about leaving it on the side for all week and you just keep adding the cucumber to it. So a really simple salad that maybe we've forgotten about. But you can also make pickles that last a little bit longer by adding grated, sliced vegetables. That's a mixed vegetable pickle. And this is kind of based on an Eastern European recipe. So that's with a slightly sweetened, so it's a bit of sugar, a bit of water and the vinegar in there, as alongside mustard seed and caraway seed, I think, in that one. So that makes for a delicious pickle as well. That's great as a relish or as a garnish in a salad or sandwiches. Really nice. Once you get addicted, it's really quite, you want that tang. We often have pickled red cabbage at Christmas, but I think if you pop that on the side, have some pickled cabbage on the go, that red cabbage is just a glorious colour and it just can't help but cheer you up. So that's one of my favourites. That's got a few caraway seeds in it as well. And then over here, Jenny and I have been talking about exploring kimchi, which is a fermented pickle from Korea, which basically is the same sort of thing. Finely shredded cabbage, spring onion, carrot, and you salt the cabbage and that helps with the fermenting process. But this also has in it a lot of ginger and garlic and some red wine vinegar or rice wine vinegar, but I used red wine, and a few other things in there. And basically you mix it together, put it on the side and leave it to ferment and eat it fairly quickly. None of this lasts too long to go off in our house, so it's really strong flavour. It's absolutely delicious. That's kimchi. Another something we were going to try because the process of making it is so fascinating. This is just white cabbage and salt. It's sauerkraut, very traditional German food. People used to have big buckets of it brewing under the table, but I make it in very small quantities, and it's, you basically massage the salt into the cabbage, and so you start off with a very crunchy, firm cabbage, and eventually the salt draws the liquid out of the cabbage, the water out of the cabbage, to make a brine, and then you ferment it in its own brine. You put it all together in a jar, and you have to make sure that the gases don't build up. So if you either need a lid with a valve of some form, or you take the lid off, or I suppose you could put a cloth over it like this, but either way you just have to look after it. If it does go off, it smells off, a very soily, earthy smell, so, but that's quite unusual. Usually they're pretty good, but basically you can leave that on the side for up to 4 weeks or so and then put it in the fridge, and you've got sauerkraut, fermented food on the go. And I like eating them with pickles and cheese and crackers and sandwiches, as well as in meals. So that's a quick run through our botanical cafe. There's all sorts of things you can do out there. This is the prime season now for foraging and exploring what you can eat and what you can't eat. So make sure you know what you're nibbling on or using, but if you want to stick with familiar ingredients from the store cupboard, that's absolutely a great starting point. But we'll be sharing some of the recipes with our participants and online, so I hope there's some way you can share and celebrate all the things that you do enjoy and can still do. So from all the team at Wild at Heart, cheers.